Hello, my name is Sierra Campbell. I want to thank you for joining me for Virtual Funerals. This is a webinar for families, for individuals, for therapists, doulas, and funeral directors. I have created this webinar so that it really came out of COVID-19. Because we cannot gather physically, I had people contacting me and asking, and really I had them saying things to me like, um, there's no sense in really doing a funeral because we can't get together. We'll do it after this isolation. And the truth is, we don't know when we'll be out of this isolation. And what I've learned in facilitating for clients and friends, I've been volunteering through COVID. Um, I've learned that there are all sorts of new ways that are being developed to gather and grieve together using technology. So I've put a webinar together, and we actually had the live webinar yesterday, but unfortunately we had some sound issues. So I have redone this so that we have good audio. I want to tell you a little bit about first myself and where I'm coming from. I created nurture.co. I've started working at a nursing home, a skilled nursing facility at the age of 16. At 21, I had my first company, a home healthcare agency in Bloomington, Indiana. It was successful. I ran it for 10 years and I just became so burnt out. And that's a whole other subject for another time. But just to give you some background, I've been with more than 100 people through their end of life, or as I like to call it, their new beginning. And in that time, I learned how scared people are to have the conversation, any conversation about end of life and a plan and healthcare and housing. And most people that came to me had found me in a moment of health crisis or housing crisis. Most of my clients, 99% of them were inside of an assisted living facility. And I was the kind of third party home health provider in my company. So I learned uh, so much, but what I learned that I've taken with me and I've given away on nurture.co are 5 critical conversations for families, individuals, for us to have with our loved ones to basically plan for a good death. And these 5 conversations include everything from how to understand finances and what could be ahead. And primarily this is for elder care. My background has been primarily with elders, and that's my experience. I have worked with those suffering from terminal illness and disease like cancer, and most of that for me has been voluntary and hospice. So that's 5 conversations. It's free. It's a resource on the website. If it's helpful, please let me know. Right now, I have a lot of therapists and doulas using this resource with their clients. And once you get inside of 5 conversations, there's so much information for you, especially if you're a professional therapist or doula or advanced care planner. There's a lot inside for you to use. It's also easy and it's easy to kind of digest, even if you are doing this with a family member. Writing an ethical will, this is another free resource on Nurture. I highly recommend that whenever you write a will, or even if you haven't written a will, this is often a first great step. This is 7 days of simple writing practices in the morning. And on that 7th day, I kind of structure it so it gives your brain something to think about. I also give you an example of Barack Obama writing his daughters a beautiful letter about values and his vision for them, really who he is. And he gives this to his daughters when they moved into the White House. And so this goes to show you that an ethical will doesn't have to be about end of life or death. It's really what I call a love and legacy letter. So it's a letter that you write to those that you want to really understand your values and your blessings and vision that you have for them. There will be a lot more resources on the site. One of my favorites is hospice. I've volunteered and worked in hospice for more than 20 years. And this course is, I think it's around $40, and it's for individuals or people wanting to understand and learn more about hospice and get into maybe a volunteer position in their community, or understand what they might be facing with a loved one who could be in hospice in the next, in the near future. So that's a little bit about Nurture and a little bit about me. I want to, if I can change the page here, also talk with you about what is a doula. And this, I love this diagram. I didn't create this. This was created by some women involved in the National End of Life Doula Association. I will be facilitating a doula certification course at the end of the year, or later this year. Registrations open in May. I've been a doula more than 20 years, and I didn't really have a name to put to this. And, you know, I've just kind of started so young at 21. I've just became in my community that person that deals with end of life stuff. And now there's a name that I can put to it, and a wonderful alliance of people all over the country serving people in their community. And so as a doula, we provide non-medical, holistic support and comfort to the dying and their family. And I really, really want to stress that the work of a doula, and even hospice workers as well, we are as much there for the family as we are for the dying person. So that's some background for you about doula. Doula is what we do, how we partner with people. We do a lot of tasks. Okay, let's dive into the virtual funeral. So ideally, we would stop for 10 minutes or so and listen to music. This is a wonderful way to actually set up when you're doing a virtual funeral, whether you're doing this professionally or with your friends and family, to have music playing at the start. It's also good, we'll get into the depth of this, but it's really nice to include the music that the deceased person, what they appreciated and loved the most. This is one of my favorites. I wish there were a better version of Tracy Chapman's Where the Soul Never Dies, but oh, I love that piece. All right, we're gonna go over today 3 components of ceremony. So I have, when I was 18, I met a group of Tibetan monks. They live in the Bloomington community, and they talked a lot about how meditation or any kind of ceremony or ritual needs to have 3 parts. And that's a good beginning, middle, and end. So you have a very clear start, a really good middle, and a closing. Okay, and so we'll go deeper into that. So in this time of COVID, this is incredibly important to really talk with your people, your community, about old and new traditions. And if you're facilitating professionally, you can do that over email, you can do it in, over phone calls, but really ask and be innovative. It's time to innovate. This is an invitation for innovation on how do we continue with our rituals despite that we're physically distancing. So as we dive deeper into this, I want you to keep in mind, have an openness and discussion on these old traditions, family traditions, and really understand what the values and desires of the person who's deceased, how they flow through this funeral. I have a lot of helpful free tools for you to help you create this virtual ceremony. And due to a wonderful program, Canva, that some friends of mine actually created in Australia, Canva has a lot of free templates for programs, for funeral programs. There's another company, Tribute.co, we'll go over, and Passages and Readings. So how do we start the steps. Okay, the steps of any funeral, any kind of ceremony like this, any memorial, is to write an obituary. And from there, the core central group of people, and I want you to keep in mind, the person to facilitate this virtual memorial is often not the spouse or direct, let's say, parent of the deceased, right? It's someone who has the emotional bandwidth to facilitate. So once you have that one or two people or a small group of people that are going to help put this together, you have to choose a conference calling platform. I recommend really think if there are people who don't have internet that they might need to dial in. So think about that when you're choosing one. I recommend within 3 weeks of passing. This funerals are typically, they're really for the living. They're for our grieving process. It's for, an element of closure. Although I don't like that word with grief, because I feel like, it's grief is unique to all of us, but this gives that communal sense of mourning and grieving. And I highly recommend it within 21 days of someone's passing. Also, 2 leaders for the ceremony, one facilitating and running through the program, the events, and the other just doing technology. Right? So when you choose that conference calling platform, you might do that based on who in your life has the most experience with a various technology platform, and deal with controversies beforehand. This is something you'd think, oh, not a big deal, but unfortunately, there might be conflict among siblings or family members. People might think this should go a certain way. As much as you can, deal with those controversies that may come up beforehand, and kind of have a plan for them, or make ways so that people have their respected space to avoid any conflict. And of course, involve friends and family to create the program. Okay, helpful technology. Let's dive right in. Designing funeral programs. Canva.com, you'll see about 50 or more templates. If you just type in funeral program, they'll start popping up. Video collaborations with Tribute. Okay, Tribute is typically a company that helps you do a video montage. Like, let's say you're wanting to celebrate an anniversary or birthday for someone, and you ask 50 of your friends to do a short video. Magically, Tribute puts that together, and out comes a beautiful video of where everyone's, and they also track everybody down with emails and say, this is your final day to submit your tribute. And so I love this format for a virtual funeral, because this gives people the opportunity in the comfort of their own home to come to their computer or phone and do a reading, a song, a passage, a poem, and share that within the larger montage of videos. And in many ways, a virtual funeral can happen in and of itself just by doing a tribute. So I highly recommend checking that out. It's also free during COVID, if your life's been affected by COVID. Timeline and life stories. MemoryWell has free tools for families, as well as NMemory. It's a French company, NMemory, but they also have service in the US. And of course, conference platforms. Facebook Live's a private group. I don't think that has a dial-in, but that's a free and somewhat simple way. And a lot of families have already congregated on Facebook Messenger. So putting everyone in a private family group for Facebook Live memory or a memorial there's potential there. Google Hangouts, Zoom, and Skype. I have some copy here for you, and you can download this and copy and paste it and make changes if this is helpful for you. Often families have been really stuck in this first step of just, where do I start? Okay, well, the start is after that obituary, or even before, even if you need help with the obituary, here's an invite. Hello, I'm writing to invite you to collaborate on a virtual memorial honoring. Service planning is underway. We'll meet, choose your your conference calling platform will meet at this day and time. Please respond to this email by sharing a reading, song, or with anything you'd like to be included in the ceremony. Also, if you are experienced with conferencing technology, please let me know if you would be interested in helping before and during the ceremony with any technology issues that may come up for all guests. If you have specific contributions, that's absolutely, if you do not have specific contributions, that's absolutely fine. A formal invite will follow. Now you can also, if you're going to do a tribute.co, a video montage, you can simply invite them through Tribute, and you can do this whole invitation through Tribute. And if people are uncomfortable, you can add a sentence in there like, pick up the phone and call me if you have any difficulty, any questions. Now, the other invitation, the next one would be the actual invite to the virtual funeral. The first one is a small group asking them to contribute. There might be friends of your loved one or friends of your client that may not be in the immediate family, but they might really want to contribute. I've certainly spoken at a lot of funerals where I'm not immediate family, and I've played a role not as a facilitator, but as someone who's read or told a story. So try to reach out to all of those people if you can to invite them to collaborate. And then there's the invitation to the actual ceremony. These are examples taken directly off of Canva. Good work, Canva. You guys rock. I recommend at the bottom or like at your front page, you ask people to, mute, not must, mute your microphone and let us know you can hear everything in the chat box, so that, just ask people to say yes. You might even want them to turn off their video at first. It depends on Wi-Fi. If you find that you're struggling with Wi-Fi, it's best to ask people to turn their video off. And the order of service. So here's where all of the collaboration comes into play in one place. Words of welcome. And again, this can be the facilitator. You can invite in a religious or spiritual facilitator to help with this. And again, you want to think about the values of the person who's deceased, as well as, the family. But this is honoring the life of the person who's departed. So if they're particularly religious, it might be really meaningful, and they have a relationship with their specific religious person. It might be nice to invite them in and ask them to say a few words. So words of welcome, an opening prayer. I like an opening ritual of lighting a candle or taking 5 breaths and just coming into the space together. I also like in the beginning to play music so that people come in and they're getting settled, and the first 5 minutes might be a song. And then once everyone's in, and they can receive help during that time if they need it with technology. After that opening ritual of lighting a candle, a musical selection, a formal reading, and again, these can be switched off person to person or just one facilitator, a proper eulogy, a life tribute. This is also, you could use the tribute as a life tribute and really celebrate the life and existence of the person who's departed, where you ask everyone in the tribute to contribute a story, an uplifting story, an experience that you had, in 1 to 2 minutes. So if 20 people do it, it's under an hour. And this is something that everyone will have a link to, and they can keep it for themselves forever. It's incredible. I know this is something so different than kind of the traditional funeral, which typically isn't recorded. And so life tribute. Thank you, Tribute. You're such a wonderful, wonderful gift to the world. I just love that company. Thank you and acknowledgements and final reading and music. And I like to tell people, for those of you who wish to stay and chat, to stay, and we'll all catch up. Now, this is super important for a lot of the funerals of people that I have loved who have departed. it's so important that the family receives the physical printouts of what was said, and even the things that didn't make it into the memorial. Incredibly important. So keep that in mind as you do the end of the program. And these can all be sent via a PDF, and via Canva, you can print things out really easily as well. This is another example in Canva. Just wanted to give you a visual context of how else these can look. And this one I mentioned, if your camera's on, be sure that you're not backlit so people can see you. And in this order of ceremony, the opening prayer, 5 deep breaths, I want to remind you to invite family and friends if they want to play a song or, do something unique and authentic, their own music, that it's very welcomed, even in this virtual video memorial. And here's where that video presentation comes in again. Again, you can use Tribute, or you could not have that all together. And you might want to think about this as like 1 hour, 1.5 or 90 minutes. And again, at the very end, think about, be sure that you thank everyone for their love and support, and anyone that you want to mention here. Incredibly important. And some people do, instead of flowers, send donations too. That's often at the very end of the program. So these are the steps to a virtual funeral. I hope that these have been helpful for you and to those in your life. A link to the video will be sent. Actually, they'll be available in resources in nurture.co. So if you have future questions, you can, inside of that resource, you can comment and ask. And if you have any additions, I will absolutely include them. So if there are companies and things that you know are helping you or that you believe will help others, please let me know. Thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.